All right, this time of year, the transfer portal, as we've become accustomed to experiencing, is just absolutely crazy. It opened up about 2 weeks ago, and it feels like every single time you open up your phone and go on any kind of social media, this quarterback's transferring, that player's transferring, this guy's leaving, and some of them you're like, what is going on? Why would he leave this college? Or, oh, that's interesting. Maybe he'll go to this college. It's just wild right now, and, nobody's safe at all from this. And LSU is experiencing some attrition right now. They're losing some players every now and then, but they're also gaining some players like they did today. I want to zoom out on this topic, though, because this is going to persist all the way through, in some cases, all the way to the summer. Like, some of these teams will continue to recruit these transfer guys, and they won't commit until, June, and they'll show up to school and be like, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to play. It's just really hard to track these days. But I want to talk about what are LSU's biggest needs that could be addressed in the transfer portal. Brian Kelly went to the portal quite a bit last offseason to bring in guys that he thought could start at positions of need. It was done before that as well. What can be done this year for LSU to fill some of those needs and help this team be better next season? Obviously, with last season, they brought in some guys who perhaps they thought would be better, and that didn't necessarily pan out in some instances. So who are some guys, if they're more selective this year perhaps, could come in, make a difference, make this team better, not worse? Quarterback, I already talked about it. I did a whole segment on this. I think LSU needs to bring in a transfer quarterback. I'm not trying to hate on Garrett Nussmeier. He certainly deserves his chance to earn this job and see what he can do in the offseason, in the spring, all that stuff. Perhaps in the bowl game if Jaden Daniels doesn't play. So I've already talked about that a lot. I think they do need a transfer. Maybe not even a guy that could come in and start and be like a Jaden Daniels type player, a plug and play, but a guy that has played maybe a little bit or, is looking to be a backup somewhere. Maybe an FCS guy, maybe a D2 guy that's played well, that's looking to make the jump to D1 and, be a part of a big program. I think you need more depth at quarterback because you've got Garrett Nussmeier, Ricky Collins, who has barely played, and then you're bringing in a guy this year, Colin Hurley, who will be a freshman, hasn't played any college ball. So say you have an injury to Nussmeier, or say Nussmeier struggles and the coaches aren't too sure about him, well, you're kind of in trouble. Another offensive position, I think wide receiver is a big need. Malik Neighbors can come back. I don't think he's going to. What more does he have to prove besides winning the Biletnikoff, which he should have won this year, but that's a whole other topic. Brian Thomas Jr. is interesting. He went for over 1,000 yards this season, was a finalist for the Biletnikoff trophy as well, or at least a semifinalist. He was in the discussion for that. He had a good season, and he could make the jump right now and go pro and make his money. He could come back and try to capitalize on more targets, more opportunities. If you ask me, I think he's leaving. So that leaves you with Kyron Lacey, who I believe has one more year of eligibility. He was a 2020 recruit. Chris Hilton, former 5-star, who should benefit from, Neighbors and Thomas leaving if they do, because he's a guy that's been waiting for his opportunity to, be the lead guy in that wide receiver room. Then you've got Aaron Anderson, Shelton Sampson. Anderson's a young guy who transferred from Alabama, saw him a little bit this year, and then Sampson was a youngin' who saw a little bit of time, but not too much. So you don't really have a ton of proven options. We've seen Hilton, put up some numbers in spurts. Kyron Lacey had a pretty big season, probably his best in college yet, but I don't think he's really a wide receiver one type dude. It was more so just being the third option along with Neighbors and Thomas. So I think they got to bring someone in, and perhaps it's this guy, Xavion Thomas from Mississippi State. He's in the portal. He is seeming to be leaning towards LSU. He was a 4-star recruit, local kid too, played at John Ehret High School, was a freshman All-American with the Bulldogs last season, mainly because of his punt return ability. Really good athlete, and he flashed that in his freshman season. And this past year, he had his best season yet in his second season. He had 3 catches for 52 yards against LSU in that game in Week 3. Overall, 42 catches, over 500 yards, and a touchdown, most of that production coming this year. So he's proven he could play SEC football, do so well, and he's looking for an opportunity to expand and to show everybody that he could be a wide receiver one in an offense. He's from the local area too, and Brian Kelly's made it his point and philosophy to want to bring those local kids back who maybe go somewhere else for college for the first year or two, and it's worked out pretty well. How about on the defensive side of the ball? I think defensive line, linebacker, and secondary are big points of need. D-line, you've got guys coming back. It might be one of your stronger position groups on paper. Mason Smith, Savion Jones, Braden Swinson, Jacobian Guillory, other guys as well. Paris Shan should be coming back next season, so you've got a lot of names and guys that have played some decent amount of snaps, but you're losing people like Quincy Wiggins, who was a high 4-star recruit, who was pretty young as well and just kind of finding his way in the system. You're also losing Bryce Langston, another pretty high recruit that didn't see the field much, but you're losing these depth pieces and you're losing these guys that could be the leaders of this position group in the future. And then you're also losing Jordan Jefferson. That's an important name. That's a big loss, literally. 4-star transfer, took over for Mekhi Wingo when he went down with injury. He should be back too, by the way. That's going to be a decision to follow. But Jefferson's a tough loss. He was a good depth piece for LSU. That was a good example of using the portal to benefit your team. At linebacker, I think you're losing Omar Spates, and I think some LSU fans are fine with that, depending on who you ask. He has played 5 years of college football, played in 2019, so I'm pretty sure that he has no more years left to play. So who's back? Whit Weeks, Greg Penn, Harold Perkins. They're all expected back. I mean, you never know with these guys. They could hop in the portal. They could do whatever. But that's what we're expecting back. I think you definitely need some depth. Penn started this year, played pretty well. Perkins obviously has played a lot. Whit Weeks has played a little bit. Coaching staff kind of held him out there towards the end of the season. Not really sure what was up with that. I think you need to bring in 1 or 2 more guys to give you a 4 or 5 set of players that, if someone gets injured, someone's nicked up, you can roll them in, roll them out. So I think that would be a need. And then secondary, obviously, it was the worst position group on LSU's team last year. Granted, you have a lot of young guys coming back like Jeremiah Hughes, Ryan Yates, Ashton Stamps. And they just added someone from the portal literally like 30 minutes ago. So that definitely helps. Jordan Gilbert. His name's spelled Jordan, but I guess it's pronounced Jordan. From Texas A&M. He's a safety. Also graduated from U-High, so played locally. He started 25 games, made 80 tackles with Texas A&M. So he's played a lot of SEC football. That's a very nice upgrade. That's a very good addition to your secondary room. And it's not like he's a transfer from Marshall like Andre Sam, all due respect, or Zy Alexander from Southeastern Louisiana. This is a guy that you should know what you're getting. He's started 25 games in the SEC. He knows what he's getting into. He doesn't need to adjust to the speed of the game. He is at the speed of the game, if not, exceeding that already based on what he's done to this point. So that's a nice pickup. You certainly need a couple more of those because that secondary room was thin and was not very talented as well. Also, Sage Ryan, the portal's going to give, it's also going to take away. Sage Ryan, former 5-star who played nickelback, corner, safety, a lot of different positions for this LSU secondary, is gone to the transfer portal. He just hopped in recently, I think earlier today, if I'm not mistaken. And then Terrence Welsh, a guy that started some games this year, is also in the portal. So, again, your biggest needs, quarterback, wide receiver, and then defensively, D-line, linebacker, secondary. They've already added some nice guys. They've also lost a couple of people that you probably don't want to lose. Again, it's going to give, it's going to take away, but what can LSU do to improve its team and take care of these positional needs? I'm excited to find out.